comes to Facebook, it turns out there's a lot more to worry about than the perfect profile picture. In fact, a former Facebook employee has come out to say that they were instructed to routinely suppress conservative news when it came to the trending feed. Now, this individual says that workers prevented stories about the right-wing CPAC gathering, Mitt Romney, Rand Paul, and other conservative topics from appearing in the highly influential section, even though they were organically trending among the site's users. So different ways that they did this. They were instructed to artificially inject selected stories into the trending news module, even if they weren't popular enough to warrant inclusion, or in some cases weren't trending at all. Now, the trending...
I don't trust any trends anymore.
This is actually very scary.
I started wearing gauchos. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe it wasn't really a trend.
It wasn't.
It did make...
Nor was it on trending on Facebook, but that's okay. You do you. Now, the trending section, which launched in 2014, constitutes some of the most powerful real estate on the internet and helps dictate what news Facebook users, which is 167 million people in the US alone, are reading at any given moment. Now, this guy came forward and he started talking about his experience and how they were suppressing some of this conservative news. But they didn't only suppress conservative news, also they suppressed stories about Facebook. So when stories about Facebook itself would trend organically on the network, news curators used less discretion. They were told not to include these stories at all. When it was a story about the company, we were told not to touch it. It had to be cleared through several channels, even if it was being shared quite a bit. We were told that we should not be putting it on the trending tool. So it would have to go through multiple levels before they would allow a story about Facebook to trend.
But now, maybe they're worried that if anything about Facebook appears in the trending topics, it'll look like they've been pushing it.
Maybe, but if it's a natural algorithm of how many things, how many times people are sharing a certain story or a certain information, it should pop up regardless. Now, hold on real quick. Since this story has broken, this story did trend on Facebook. Facebook has...
Doesn't that prove that the story's wrong then?
Released a statement that they take these allegations very seriously and they're looking into it.
Yeah, because they are the allegations of one former employee.
Or a few former employees were talking about the injection tool where they would trend certain topics that they thought people should be reading.
Well, but the thing is, first of all, I've never once thought about what goes into choosing those trending topics because, as I'll circle back to later, I think that the entire thing is absolute crap. But the idea that that would be some natural, pure thing that's purely driven by what people are talking about, no aspect of Facebook is like that. Your feed isn't like that. The groups that you like on Facebook, you don't see all their information. Everything is being modified in a bunch of ways that are wholly inorganic.
Right.
So this is just like the rest of Facebook.
Yeah, it was just an extension of that. They were trying to emulate how Twitter has the trending topics, which is a lot more organic. But it's unfortunate, especially on Facebook.
Although they do call that sometimes too.
Yeah, I mean, depending on your location and who you follow and things like that.
No, but even some topics, they'll take off the trending.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There have been high-profile scandals of things that were trending, and then all of a sudden they were just gone.
Well, that's one thing that I want to mention about the Facebook is that they've been accused of. They were accused of not promoting the Black Lives Matter movement. And
even if it was trending?
Because it was trending. And then, because people were sharing it a lot, right? And so they got accused of not promoting it. And then they promoted it artificially. And a lot of people are saying that because the Black Lives Matter movement was started on Facebook, that a lot of that was artificial, which is unfortunate.
That's also ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. But if you're sharing this information and you're seeing these trends on the side and you want to read a story about a certain thing, you're assuming that a lot of people are talking about it. You're assuming maybe it's, in some cases more important than it actually is, or more people are talking. Because I'm always surprised. I mean, for the past 48 hours, I don't know when this video is going up, but for the past 48 hours, Justin Bieber's face tattoo has been trending.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I'm like, there's so many more. There's the Philippines election that's going on. There's things are really heating up with Loretta Lynch and the things that she's saying about the North Carolina bathroom laws. Those things should be trending, not to cross that you can barely. It looks like a freckle.
Yeah. So again, the idea that. Look, Facebook could theoretically just allow whatever is being talked about to be there. I don't think that they, as a private company, have an obligation to allow whatever stupid bullshit people are talking about to necessarily be promoted in that section that they created. So they can choose to promote certain things that they consider to be super important. If a celebrity's just died, yes, people will end up talking about it, but they'll end up talking about it much faster if Facebook just boosts it knowing that they're going to talk about it. And then, so with the Black Lives Matter not being put on there, even though people were talking about it, it seems then, look, if they're specifically taking off Mitt Romney or Rand Paul or whatever, they shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it seems then, if there's also Black Lives Matter, then it could be that the Facebook employee, the former employee, is right that they're culling stuff, but is being selective in terms of what they're identifying that they've culled. Maybe they've culled things from all sides of the political spectrum.
Right.
Maybe they generally take off political things.
Maybe they try to be more neutral.
And it's not a bias in terms of ideology. And also, they had like Steven Crowder there, and I can imagine like, yeah, some things could be technically news, but if they're hateful in their message, if they're violent in what they talk about, if it's a conspiracy
hate speech is
theory,
not allowed on Facebook anyway, so maybe things that are being more, like you're saying, more hateful, they'll detract from the
they'll take it off.
Trending,
Yeah, so technically it's news, I guess, but they don't have an obligation to put every stupid conspiracy theory there.
I think people are just, the reason people are upset about this, and I think the reason people are talking about this, is if you see something like, hey, these things are trending, you assume that organically people are sharing and talking about them.
Yeah, like people are really interested in Miley Cyrus's pants.
If you're being misled on that, that's concerning, right?
Yeah, well then, let me reassure you, you are being misled in 100 different ways, some of which have been identified here and some have not.
Facebook is no different than, if you look at any other big media outlet, they're culling information and they're pushing out certain biases as well. Facebook is just replicating that.
Yeah, and the idea that, look, Facebook is desperate to make money. The idea that they aren't accepting money to promote certain stories, like that Justin Bieber thing is probably the result, I can't say that specific story, but probably the result of a payment from the company that manages him. They desperately want him to be back in the news, and so that's a way to do it. The idea that people were so interested in his face tattoo, like that's crazy. They would definitely accept money to promote things.
There's a lot of teenagers on Facebook. I don't necessarily think that's a prime example, but I think there are probably examples that are like about certain brands or something like that, where like if there's like a Coke ad or a Pepsi ad, I'm sure they have paid extra money to have those sorts of things promoted and to show up in the trending so that they can get eyes on it. It is pretty interesting, but I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that on your Facebook you've noticed that certain things were trending that may not have organically been trending themselves? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you soon.